Your purpose here on planet Earth in this lifetime is to express the universe as you. We're talking about prosperity and success this month. We are going down to the basics of our spiritual teaching and talking about how to use these principles. And one of the cornerstones of our understanding of our teaching is that you must have a can-do attitude. Instead of giving ourselves reasons why we can't, we have to give ourselves reasons why we can. Yes. And those reasons are not just personal, they're not just personality reasons, they are also spiritual reasons and spiritual tools and principles that we can use. And so when we're fighting in this kind of a conversation, when we're fighting, we're not fighting with anybody out there. Who are you fighting with? We're fighting with false beliefs. We're fighting with limiting ideas. We're fighting with the critic in our own mind. And we don't necessarily have to do battle with them, but we have to have the same oomph and the same power and the same willingness as one would take into a fight. So I'm going to invite your inner spiritual warrior to come to the forefront. Because you have one, your inner spiritual warrior. You've only got 3 choices: give up, give in, or give it all you've got. Right? Those are your choices. You can give up and resign, you can give in and settle, or you can give it all you've got. And this is about creating the life of your dreams, the life that you decide that you want to have. Now, when we're talking about this conversation about prosperity and success, we're not talking about a one-time demonstration. Oh, yes, you can go to a practitioner and you can have a one-time demonstration. You can get that job, you can get that money to flow in, you can buy that car, whatever that is. But we know that that's not enough. What really works is a life that works. Prosperity that works, a success that is over our lifetime. And I love the quote, the wonderful quote is, are you making a living or are you making a life? And what we often do in our prosperity work is we're going to make a living. We're going to get that job. We're going to make that money. We're going to do that one thing. And then we think, oh, okay. But we're talking about making a life that is successful and prosperous in, of course, the way in which we define it. And so we're building today on one of my favorite topics in the whole wide world, and that is the topic of sustained effort. Ooh, we just sucked the air right out of the room. What do you mean? I can't just allow Spirit to bring it to me? I'm just going to sit back and allow the universe to do it? Well, there is completely truth to that. We are actually going to let the law do the how. But we actually have a part in it. We have a part in it. And our part in it is sustained effort. Now, sustained effort is without fight or struggle. It's not efforting against something. It's not fighting against something. It is the sustained effort that means day after day, week after week, month after month, we stay committed to our goals and our plans and our dreams. And it is without struggle or suffering, which means our sustained effort is undergirded with a cheerful expectation of results. Right? Struggle is simply the belief that it's going to be hard, and suffering is all the ways in which we resist what is required to have that which we dream about. Part of what we resist is the discipline of our consciousness. Part of what we fight against is the fact that we actually have to become someone different to be as prosperous as we want to be. Those are the things that we have to create sustained effort around so that we're not fighting or resisting and we're not struggling and suffering, but our effort is built on top of a cheerful expectation of results, a cheerful expectation of a life that is prosperous and successful. Now, we're often told, well, if you really want to make money, you got to find your passion. You got to find your passion and you got to do your purpose. And I can't tell you how many people come to me and say, I have no idea what that is. I promise you that your passion is not a job. And your purpose is not to become a label. Your passion, your purpose here on planet Earth in this lifetime is to express the universe as you. And the way that you do that is by whatever you're passionate about. Whether you're passionate about gardening, passionate about raising a child, passionate about building a multi-billion business, saving the world, or simply showing up as you. And these passions, I believe it's really okay for them to change over time. You may not have a passion that lasts an entire lifetime, because I think we often equate passion with career, passion with work in the world, right? Our passion is that which gets us out of bed in the morning. And it could be living a spirit-filled life, no matter what we're doing. But our fundamental purpose here is to express the one, to engage in your life and create a life. You're not here to have a job. You're not, really. You're not here to make a living. You are here to create a life. Now, to do that, in our wonderful book here, we're reading this fabulous book by Norman Vincent Peale. He talks about you have to have this all starts with a desire. Napoleon Hill says to achieve anything, you need a burning desire. Burning desire. So let me ask this question. Are you obsessed with a successful life? Or are you obsessed with all the things that are keeping you from having it?
I'm so glad you joined us today. That makes you a part of CSLDallas, and we love that our community continues to grow. And we also love to give great spiritual content. And a way that you can participate in our community is financially give to it. It's easy to do so. Go to CSLDallas.org and hit the give button. Or you can set up a text giving mechanism at 972-954-4404, a safe and secure way to send us money whenever you watch a great message like this. So thanks for giving, and buckle up, because here comes the spiritual content.
Are you obsessed with a successful life? Or are you obsessed with all the things that are keeping you from having it? How do you know you're obsessed? It's what you think about. And think about, right? I know. Why do I know this so well? Okay, remember, we don't say anything up here that we haven't ourselves had to make our way through. Desire is the starting point for achievement. Norman Vincent Peale in our book says, the ease with which lack of persistence may be conquered will depend entirely on the intensity of one's desire. A desire strong enough to pull you through failure, pull you through setbacks, pull you through disappointments, pull you through the fact that you really do actually have to get up today because there's something you need to do in service to this life that you are creating. Right? That desire, the intensity of one's desire. I want to read you the whole piece here. As soon as you master the principles of this philosophy and begin to follow the instructions for applying these principles, your financial status will begin to improve. Everything you touch will begin to transmute itself into an asset for your benefit. Impossible? Not at all. One of the main weaknesses of humankind is the average person's familiarity with the word impossible. He knows all the rules that will not work. He knows all the things that cannot be done. This book was written for those who seek the rules that have made others successful and are willing to stake everything on those rules. I love this. A great many years ago, I purchased, he's talking about himself, right? Napoleon Hill. I purchased Napoleon Hill, yes. I'm totally confused now. Okay, our book is by Napoleon Hill, right? Is that right? So I have Norman Vincent Peale up here. He's also a fabulous writer about success. We will talk about failures shortly. A great many years ago, I purchased a fine dictionary. The first thing I did was turn to the word impossible and neatly clip it out of the book. This would not be an unwise thing for you to do as well, he says. An intensity of one's desire. So I found Science of Mind when I was 17 years old. At 19, I determined I was going into ministerial school. Between 17 and 19, I was in classes 4 nights a weekend, every weekend. It was my saving grace. It taught me, I was a hot mess. Ooh, it was not pretty. And so I decided that I was going to go into ministerial school because I just knew that if this was going to save my life, it would save other people's lives. So I applied to ministerial school, and they said no. I'm a straight A student. What do you mean, no? I got all my transcripts together. I got a better letter of recommendation, and I applied again, and they said, no, come back when you're 45 and you've had a life and you have something to say. I applied a 3rd time. I said, no, you don't understand. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I have a passion for. This is my purpose in life. I feel utterly called to do this. You don't understand. I'm going to be a minister in the science of mind. I got a call from the dean in Los Angeles. Our school was in Los Angeles at the time. I was in Seattle. He said, are you coming to the convention next week? I said, yeah, actually I am. I'd love to meet with you. He said, I would like to meet with you as well. We had lunch. And he told me in no uncertain terms that I would never be accepted into ministerial school until I had gone out and had a career and had a life. And then I could come back. You know, he said, probably when you're 50, you should come back. And then you can apply for ministerial school, which is another 4 years. So you might start your ministerial career at 55. That would be good. And I looked at him and I said, you don't understand. I'm going to be a minister in the science of mind. And I'm not waiting until I'm 55 to do that. So it was just so happened, coincidentally, that the previous dean of the ministerial school in Los Angeles had moved to Seattle a few years ago. That's a few years before that. That's where he was from. He and his wife were part of the Seattle community. And my mentor and Glenn Wood and I sat down, and I said, they won't let me in. I guess we have to start our own. So the following year, we started our own ministerial training with 9 people in the class. And they said, and they lost it. Yes, thank you. You can applaud for that. And the Los Angeles school said, I don't know what you think you're doing, but we will not be accepting your training because you're not doing it here. And I said, you don't understand. I'm going to be a minister in the science of mind. Now, I will tell you that along the way, I got mad. I got angry. I felt victimized. I had to really stop and think about, like, really? What the hell are you doing? Really? Do you really think you can do this? Yes. The intensity of the desire. I had to work through all those feelings, right? But each time it was, no, you don't understand. This is what I am going to do. And after we had been in the training for 2 years, and we kept shipping them information, these are the classes we're doing, here's the syllabus of the classes, they went, oh, wow, it looks like you're doing something real up there. So we went to school for 2 years not knowing whether or not it would be a waste of time. And after 2 years, they finally said, well, it looks like you're actually doing the program that we do here. I guess we will acknowledge your training when you're done and allow you to apply for the license. So I was 24 when I completed that and went down and applied for the license. Do you see, the intensity of our desire is the only thing that's going to move us through the setbacks that we inevitably are going to have. Not everybody is in alignment with how the life that we are making. But we have to decide that the intensity of our desire is what's going to pull us through. Whatever that particular desire is for that period of time in our lives. Now, I think it's extraordinary that I've been a minister for so long. I thought I would have at least 3 careers in my lifetime. Really, I thought I would hop around because I'm kind of a hopping around kind of gal, and I like to explore, and I like to try new things, and yeah, that didn't turn out that way at all. Because that was the intensity of my desire. This is what I'm here for. This is my passion. Now, when I first started, so I was 24 years old. I was pretty wet behind the ears. I was only barely not a hot mess. But I was applying the principles to the best of my ability. I'd quit drinking. I'd stopped doing drugs. I'd stopped smoking cigarettes. I'd stopped sleeping around. I'd stopped doing making all of my relationships wrong and being victimized by everything. I'd stopped all of that and thought, well, if I can do it, surely I can help other people put a life together. But I was still kind of a hot mess because now I had to go out and do it in the world. And everybody told me, you're going to start a community? Why would you want to do that? That is so hard. Oh, it's so hard. I cannot tell you how many ministers told me it was hard to go out and start my own community. And I said, well, I don't know. I'm going to be here in the Northwest, and there are no communities to go to, so I'm going to go down the street down there, down the neighboring town, and I'm going to start a community super supported by my mentor minister and a couple of other ministers. I knew 4 people in the area had $2,500 in my pocket. And I marched right down there, and I hung out the shingle. We called it the Abundant Life Center. I hung out the shingle of a religious science and mind community. I knew 4 people, and I had $2,500 in my pocket. That was it. And I staked my life and my work on the ability to follow that and to know that when I'm following my passion, when you're following that which drives you, that desire, the universe can't help but support you. Because you are so focused on what it is that you want that all the law can do is say yes. Right? We had 50 members, signed up members within 2 weeks. We were chartered within 4, the fastest charter anybody's ever received ever. Right? Because you don't understand, this is what I'm going to do. Right? Do you see? So once that got started, let me tell you that there was a lot of things along the way I didn't actually like to do. I didn't want to do them. I was the first person. Well, so we were in a Masonic temple for 3 years. We did church in a box, and then we finally found a storefront, and we started doing what I've been doing for 35 years in ministry, and that's remodeling. Right? Okay, we got to remodel this and make this into a center, and I've been doing that ever since. And so after we got this, it was an old pool hall. It was a pool hall. We ripped out the fountain. We ripped the soda fountain, and and then we made it. We put a nice platform in and whatever. And I cleaned the toilets because there was nobody else to do that. Right? And I thought at one point, gosh, I will have arrived when somebody else is cleaning the toilets besides me. And then always this whole time, right? There's all these things that we have to face. I had to learn how to go knock on doors and say, hi, I'm Reverend Petra Weldis. I've started a new community because I was following the Robert Schuller model. At the time, there was no social media. I couldn't afford advertising. I couldn't even afford a door hanger. I only had $2,500 in my pocket. So I had to learn how to go knock on doors and say, hi, I'm Reverend Petra. We're starting this new community here in Renton, Washington. And if you don't have a spiritual community and you're interested, let me give you some information. Oh my God. Right? You all know what an introvert I am. I wanted to hide behind the bushes. I did not like doing that, but I did it. I did it faithfully, weekend after weekend after weekend after weekend. Do you see? It is our passion that pulls us through these things. And our cheerful expectation of a good result that allows us to move through those things that we actually don't like doing. But I think sometimes what happens is we're confronted with those things that we don't like doing, and then we take them for a sign that we shouldn't be doing it. Or we talk ourselves out of doing it because what we focus on is how much we don't like it. Right? And so I remember when we moved into, actually we were still in our old space over on Midway, and we had a big conversation as a community, as a leadership, and we kept talking about, well, as a small church, we're kind of limited, and we're doing a small church, small church, and we were like, wait a minute, are we using our principles here? We're going to keep saying small church, we're going to stay one. So we started talking about in our leadership, we started talking about, well, if we were a big church, what would we do? How would we act? Well, first of all, we would take the checkbook out of the treasurer's glove compartment and of the car, and we would actually put it on a desk and have a real bookkeeper. That was the first decision. Well, if you're like a real organization, you actually have a bookkeeper. She came in 2 hours twice a month. She was a volunteer. She was amazing human being. She was with us for a really long time, and right. So we had to learn how to become that which we were envisioning, just like we're doing today. I am learning how to implement technology. And I am not sure I like it any better than cleaning the toilets. But by God, I'm learning it. And when Ryan and Carol Merlot talk to me about it, I try not to have my eyes glaze over. I really try to pay attention. I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can get it. Really, I can get it. But do you see how different that is than, oh, God, I don't want to learn this. Oh, man, I'm never going to get it. Why do we have to do this? Can't we go back to old-fashioned ministry? Do you see all the ways in which we undermine our own success? Do you see? So, in order to be successful, your focus has to be so intense. Oh, no, I've got a different quote here. Spasmodic or occasional effort to apply the rules will be of no value to you. To get results, you must apply all of the rules until their application becomes a fixed habit with you. So what does that mean when you're confronted with doing something you don't want to do? What do? You bring your spiritual tool out. When you're confronted with something that seems seemingly challenging, what do? You bring your spiritual principles out. I don't know how to do this, but there's something within me that knows how to do this. I may not want to do this, but there's something within me that absolutely can do this. Do you see, over and over and over again, we have to apply, in a sustained effort, we have to apply the rules of spiritual living, the rules of spiritual principle. That's the sustained effort that's required, and we have to apply them over and over and over again in every situation that we're faced with, any challenge or problem or setback or failure. We have to keep applying these rules until they become a fixed habit with us. So when I arrived here, I was actually the interim minister here at CSLDallas for a year when I first arrived in Texas. And when they asked the previous minister, as soon as I arrived, they basically asked the minister to leave. And he went down the street with 80 people, left us with 20 people and $50,000 in debt. Oh, here, and then CSL said, oh, you're there. Why don't you be the interim minister? That would be so great. I'm like, really? I had a child at home. I was full-time mom, full-time in school. Now I was going to be a full-time minister. And we were $50,000 in debt. So I went to the leadership at the time, and it was all about, oh my God, we've lost all these people. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? We owe $50,000. We had a storefront at the time. We had 20 people in it. We couldn't afford the storefront that we had. And I said, what we're going to do is tithe. Oh, we just sucked the air right out of the room again. just like that. I said, we're going to tithe. And they said, on what? I said, on the money that we receive. Oh, but we need that to pay that. We need that to pay our bills. We need that to pay our debt. Do we believe in our spiritual principles or not? We have to apply our spiritual principles consistently all of the time. And one of the rules is you have to believe that you have so that the universe can say, yes, you have. One of the ways in which you prove to the universe that you believe you have, you tithe. That's what they all looked at me like, what? So I said, so every Sunday, we're going to count the collection. On Monday morning, we're going to write a check to our larger organization for 10%, because we live in an abundant universe, and we are going to prove to the universe that we understand how these principles work, and we are going to apply them. We were out of $50,000 in debt in 6 months. The only thing that we did to get out of debt, we tithed. We used the principles consistently, unfailingly, until they are a fixed habit with us. In order to be successful, your focus has to be so intense that people think you are crazy. Let me tell you, they thought I was crazy. They did. They did. I don't know how that's going to work out. The dean of the school, when I was applying, he thought I was crazy. Right? When we moved in here, when we finished moving in here, we did not have 2 dimes to rub together. We had spent all of our money moving into this space. And people thought, oh my God. In order to be successful, our focus has to be so intense that people think we're crazy. One of the challenges we have about this is that it requires choices. Choices. We're going to do this, and that means I'm not going to do that. But I don't want to limit the universe. I don't want to limit myself. What if the universe wants me to do that? The only thing the universe wants is for you to live your life to the fullest. It does not really care whether you do this or that. All the law is going to do is to say yes to whatever you focus on. Well, I think I'll do this. Yes. Oh, I think I'll do that. Yes. Well, I think I'll do this. Yes. Well, I think I'll do that. Could you make up your mind, please? Because what will happen is that, right, we split our focus, we get a split demonstration. So let me tell you the bad news about taking responsibility for your choices. The bad news is you are limiting yourself, because you are choosing something and not choosing something else. The good news is, when you focus on something, like laser focused on that thing, whatever that is, whether that is healing your body, manifesting something, building a business, learning a new art form, expressing, being out in the world to shift consciousness, whatever that is, when that is the focus, you see the entire universe rallies around to support you. And the law can only say yes. And the more of that focus that we have over and over and over again, it's saying yes to us over and over and over again. It could be, I am going to be so focused on learning how to relax and not be stressful and not be stressed. Right? I mean, it doesn't have to be some big outer thing. These can be inner things as well that create success in our lives. But we have to be focused on it. We have to do the work to really let go of our stress, use our spiritual principles, be in that place where we're living in trust so that we can relax into our lives. And we have to be that same lasered focused and not allow ourselves to get popped out into, oh, but I'm really stressed and I have all these things to do. Breathe. Oh, but I'm really stressed. Do you see? We have to be laser focused. Today, I'm laser focused on learning technology and being a 21st century spiritual community. I'm laser focused on that because, by God, I'm going to learn it. Keep telling everybody by the end of the year we'll have this online technology figured out, at least for our hybrid classes. But I am going to learn it because I believe that we are serving the needs of our DFW community and the needs of the people all over the planet who are desperately looking for something. They just don't know what it is they're looking for. They don't know that it's this teaching they're looking for. So I love this quote. I found a lot of quotes about persistence and perseverance. And I absolutely love this quote. A river cuts through rock, not because of its power, but because of its persistence. Yeah, not because of its power, but because of its persistence. Do you see? And it's the persistence of using the universal principles. We're not fighting anything out there. right? It's not the persistence of, well, you can only make it if you work hard. No, it's the persistence in here. It's the persistence of the power of the universal principles, not my power. I'd be exhausted. I'd be dead if it were my power that had grown and participated in this ministry over the last however many years, right? It is the nature of the universe to have that power. And our job is to align ourselves with it. All we have to do is give it a direction. Give it a consistent, sustained direction. That's our job. And so the conversation is often about will or willpower, right? It's the only use for our willpower is to maintain the focus and to guard our mind from excuses and alibis. He uses those terms a lot in here. Excuses and alibis, the ways in which we don't maintain the sustained effort. Now, this doesn't mean you can't have feelings. Of course you can have feelings. You can get upset. You can be angry. You can be disappointed. All of that stuff. You just can't live there. And more importantly, you can't let those feelings become the story that you tell yourself. Right? You have the feelings. Wow, man, I'm so disappointed that didn't work out. You can have those feelings for a while. You can cry, you can rage, you can have that for a while. And then what do? We go back to our spiritual principles. And we use our can-do attitude and we apply those principles with cheerful expectancy, and we see that this is not a verdict from the universe. This is simply some outpicturing of something that didn't work out. There might be something we can learn from it. We might just see that, oh, that door closed. Or it might just be part of the bumps of the road. We don't have to give it any more meaning than what we can learn from it and remind ourselves that our sustained effort is to guard our mind from excuses and alibis. I found all kinds of these little things about persistence. I love this one. Can you read it? I hope you can read it. It does not matter how slowly you go as long as you do not stop. That's what sustained effort means. You just keep at it. You keep at it, and you keep at it, and you keep at it. Never underestimate the power of persistence, the positive expectancy. Yes, sometimes you actually have to work at it. There's some effort. There's some blood, sweat, and tears in it. But this does not mean it has to be a struggle, nor do you have to suffer. Do you see, struggle and suffer are the stories that we tell ourselves about the blood, sweat, and tears. What if instead of talking to ourselves about how hard it is, we said to ourselves, but it's worth it. But it's worth it. Every day I'm getting closer to my goal. Every day I'm moving towards it. Every day I'm learning something. Every day there's something that is happening. Every day I'm pushing through that cement, and by God, I'm going to flower. Do you see? That is where we have control on whether or not we take the moments that we really have to work at a little bit. And it's all about the story, how we talk to ourselves about it. Now, in this fabulous Napoleon Hill book, Think and Grow Rich, he has a list of 10 reasons for failure, which I will not read to you. It is, however, quite interesting. And he talks about the 10 reasons for failure all have to do for a lack of persistence and perseverance that are mostly built on alibis and excuses. And he, talks about them. And yes, I found myself in a few. And I had to, that's what we have to do to look at them. But the very last one, hang on, is there's more than 10. Sorry, there's 16. I really won't read all of them to you. There's 16. The very last one, fear of criticism. Failure to create plans and to put them into action because of what other people will think, do, or say. This enemy belongs at the head of the list because it generally exists in the subconscious mind without being recognized. Let us examine some of the symptoms of the fear of criticism. The majority of people permit relatives, friends, and the public at large to so influence them that they cannot live their own lives because they fear criticism. Huge numbers of people make mistakes in marriage, stand by the bargain, and go through life miserable and unhappy because they fear the criticism that may follow if they correct the mistake. Millions of people neglect to acquire belated educations after having left school because they fear criticism. Countless numbers of men and women, both young and old, permit relatives to wreck their lives in the name of duty because they fear criticism. People refuse to take chances in business because they fear the criticism that may follow if they fail. The fear of criticism in such cases is stronger than the desire for success. Too many people refuse to set high goals for themselves or even neglect selecting a career because they fear the criticism of relatives and friends, in quote, who may say, "Don't aim so high, people will think you're crazy." When Andrew Carnegie suggested that I devote 20 years to the organization of a philosophy of individual achievement, my first impulse of thought was fear of what people might say. The suggestion set up a goal for me far out of proportion to any I had ever considered. As quick as a flash, my mind began to create alibis and excuses, all of them traceable to the inherent fear of criticism. Something inside me said, "You can't do it. The job is too big and requires too much time. What will your relatives think of you? How will you earn a living? No one has ever organized a philosophy of success, so what right have you to believe that you can do it? Who are you anyway to aim so high?" Any of these sound familiar? Remember your humble birth. What do you know about philosophy? People will think you're crazy, and they did. Why hasn't some other person done it before now? These and many other questions flashed into my mind and demanded attention. It seemed as if the whole world had suddenly turned its attention to me with the purpose of ridiculing me into giving up all desire to carry out Mr. Carnegie's suggestion. I had a fine opportunity then and there to kill off ambition before it gained control of me. Ignoring the criticism or helpful advice of family and friends. This is one of the ways in which we stand guard in the corners of our consciousness and really, really feel that desire and the way that the universe is supporting us. I've been involved in Centers for Spiritual Living pretty much my whole life as a minister. You know, you guys volunteer here, and we love it. We need all of you to be volunteering here because we're a volunteer-driven organization. Plus, that's how I get to hang out with you, right? You do realize because as an introvert, the only way I know how to hang out with you is to work with you, right? I don't actually. That's really true. So if you want, please come hang out with me. But I have to volunteer someplace else. Right? Because we all have to give our gift. So I volunteer at Centers for Spiritual Living. So I've had every position there is at Centers for Spiritual Living except for paid positions. I was on the move. We moved our organization from California to Colorado, to outside of Denver. And that was a big, huge conversation 10 years ago, whenever it was. And because it was so expensive in California, we'd lost a property that we had owned. We had apparently gotten, anyway, it doesn't matter, story. So we were in this little place, we were renting it. It was California, significantly expensive. And our international headquarters did not own their own building. And I and a few people thought that was not good. Nor should we be paying so much rent. So we began having a conversation about moving. And I was put on the committee to do that. And we looked at Denver, we looked at Phoenix, and we looked at Dallas. And we looked at a number of places. And sure enough, we found a building, a beautiful building outside of Denver, up up in the mountains, because of course everybody wanted trees and they wanted glass and views, and because we love that, right? It feeds our soul. They wanted places that would feed our soul. And we could purchase that building and pay less per month in mortgage, significantly less per month in mortgage than we were paying in rent in California. I mean, you have to think about that. We were buying a $2 million building for less than we were paying in rent in California. Oh man, did the criticism fly? Well, you're moving out of California and moving to Denver to get rid of all the people of color. You're moving out of California and moving to Denver so that the Californian people can no longer run the organization. I mean, you would have not believed the extraordinary amounts of criticism and then helpful advice. Really, Denver? You want to go to Denver where there's snow in the winters? Well, really, are you kidding? That is not a good idea. But, and so ultimately, right, the leadership of our organization said, what's our vision? What's our burning desire? And sure enough, we purchased that beautiful piece of property on which they have elk and deer that come visit. If you've never been up there, I highly recommend that you go up there, right? And so this idea that, and the other thing I'll never forget, somebody said to me, this was years and years and years ago, because I was plagued by what other people think. And somebody said to me, Petra, you know what? They think about you for 5 minutes. And they maybe talk to their friend about you for another 5 minutes. And then they go off on their merry little way. And you have to live with the decisions you made based on what they said 24/7. Yeah. 5 minutes to 24/7. Yeah. We're worth more than that. We're worth that 24/7. We're worth having that 24/7 be in alignment with who we are, not the 5 minutes that somebody has to criticize. I love this quote by Maya Angelou. If you're always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be. Remember that, being so focused that people think you're crazy? Right? If you're always trying to be normal, you'll never know how amazing you can be. And they've updated this book, Think and Grow Rich, not only with the Rockefellers and the Carnegies when he was writing, but now with the people from today, with businesses and people who are doing work in the world, and not-for-profits and all of those kinds of things. Huge success stories, and many of them were laughed at. They were absolutely laughed at when they first said, this is what we're going to do. This is the passion that I have. So I remember when this meme came out, still one of my favorite memes in the whole entire world, right? You are here to be you. You are here to express the one as you, to express your gifts, your talents that are unique to you. And, when you jump out of the pool, they are going to think that you are crazy. What if you miss? You'll die out there. Oh my gosh, all the things that we can say. All right, so perseverance, persistence, grit, and sustained effort. I love this word grit. I think grit really captures this idea of sustained effort. There's this wonderful TED Talk that I highly recommend to you. It's actually done in education. She's a professor of psychology, Angela Lee Duckworth. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint. Think about that. We are so enculturated to our instant gratification society, and then we think we should do our spiritual mind treatment and have an instant result. Yes, when you're talking about physically manifesting health in your body, or you need to instantly manifest some money to keep the doors open and the lights on, fine. But creating a life is a marathon, not a sprint. It's learning and growing in lots and lots of different ways. So she did a big study of the difference between those who failed and those who succeeded academically in school situations. And I think it was middle schoolers she was studying, because they have such a turning point for many students in their academic career. And she compared for privilege, for IQ, for knowledge, for socioeconomic, for where they lived. She compared for all of those things. And the only answer for why some students succeeded when others failed, across the board, she called it grit. The only reason. There was no other factor that contributed to why people succeed and others fail. I like to think of that as sustained effort. Learning how to apply these things in my own life, for you to learn how to apply these things in your life. I think of my life as hiking a mountain. Sometimes you sit and you enjoy the vista, sometimes you sweat, sometimes you pant, but there's somewhere you're going. You're going up the mountain. Of course, when you get to the top of the mountain, you did discover that right over there is another mountain to climb, which is great, right? We have eternity. We have eternity to express ourselves. We have eternity to experience all of the passion and the desire. But when I first started learning to hike, all I could think about was how hard it is, how painful, how people were leaving me in the dust, how much faster they all hiked than I did. And it was in hiking that I learned how to apply these principles. When I noticed my thinking, I started every step counting my gratitudes. I started every step, like literally, I am not kidding. Okay, I'm not kidding. I was 18 years old. I think I can. I am not kidding. I mean, those things we learn as children, the little engine that could. That's how I learned how to apply these situations and not be afraid of the effort. It is an effort to sling an 80-pound pack on your back and go 5 days out in the wilderness and hike the mountains. That takes effort. But there's no struggle in it. And there's no suffering in it if we're enjoying the journey. And if we remember why we're doing it, we remember what's going on. Failure cannot cope with persistence. Story after story after story after story in our reading. You will encounter setbacks. Things won't work out. This is not a message from the universe. This is an opportunity for feedback, to learn, to grow, to discover something new, to open a window when the door closes. And in our book, Napoleon Hill, every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. What we do not see, what most of us never suspect of existing, is the silent and irresistible power which comes to the rescue for those who fight on in the face of discouragement. I love that song, Janet. Thank you so much for singing that. This is our fight song. Again, not to fight the world, not to fight something outside of ourselves, but to fight to stand in our truth, to fight to use our universal principles to really stand firm and allow our passion to move us forward. And that is the doorway to success. So he also talks about there are 4 simple steps to develop persistence and perseverance, but I'm not going to tell you what they are. You have to buy the book and read it for yourself. Because you're going to want to read this book. If you do not have it yet, I really can't recommend it enough. I mean, it is straightforward. Here is how you apply this for your life as you want to create the life that is successful and prosperous. So let us take a moment to simply anchor all of this in. If you would go within with me now, would just take this opportunity to hold the vision for our lives. A life that works, a life that is happy and successful and fulfilled and meaningful, that contributes in some way. Each one of us deserve this life. And let us know that we actually do have all the tools, all the spiritual support. We have all the love and all of everything we need for that good to begin to manifest. Let us be willing to be patient with the process. And what I know to be true for each one of us is that as we engage in our lives in this beautiful way, the universe does nothing but say yes. Yes to your success. Yes to your prosperity. Yes to your joy. Yes to your fulfillment. Yes to your contribution. Yes, you do in fact make a difference, because you are expressing life in a joyous, unique, and precious way. And that is oh so very good. So if you want to say yes to your good, and if you are willing to commit to the sustained effort that is required, let us join together by saying, "And so it is."